guys, and welcome to the next installment of How to iDefine. Today we're going to be talking about function blocks, a key part of iDefine and an essential way to creating your logic. So we're going to start with a function block. So I'm going to quickly create a new function block, and I'm going to call this one a timer. Now I'm going to do a timer because timers are common throughout all areas, all systems, so I thought it'd be a good idea to create something that everyone can relate to. So this description is describing exactly what the timer will do, and this timer will be providing the timer for pedestrian crossing, knowing when to cross and when not to cross, and how long is left before the light goes green. So we create that function block, and we're presented with a screen that's similar to the one that we used in the traffic light playlist. However, that was a module, and we were creating a state module to emulate the functionality. In this, we're going to be using function blocks, inputs and outputs in function block form on a page. So the first thing you want to do is drag an input onto the page. And I did that by going into the templates, which you can access by the A at the top. And that'll open this bar on the left, and you drag it on. And then all you want to do is you want to open the properties menu on the right, which can be done by clicking on the menu item in the toolbar at the top, which is a piece of paper with a finger pointing at it, and alter the description of that tag, or as we call it in iDefine, to whatever you're labeling your input as. So as I wrote in the description, this time is actually going to be two timers. One timer for the time to crossing, so the time before they can cross, so the time that is red, and then another timer that is the time until they can cross, so the time left to crossing. And these two tags that I've put on the screen are these two times, and what this means is I can set these times from the outside as an input rather than having them as constants in the timer. This timer can be used in multiple different situations and adapted to those different systems. The next step is to allocate those tags to a function block which converts them into real values. So working with times, so seconds or minutes, is not supported throughout the tool. What's more supported is reals, ints, doubles, things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a function block called time to seconds real and attach that to the tag just by dragging it onto that little stub at the end there. Now everything moves from left to right. Inputs are on the left, outputs are on the right, and functionality is in the middle. Now all I did there, as you might have seen, I'd copied, all I did was control and drag, and that copies that function block or anything on that page for that matter. The next step is to grab an output, or in this case a variable, because I'm using the output of this internally within the function block, so I want to write it to a variable rather than a physical output. So I grab the variable and I'm changing it much the same in the properties, the name of the tag, and then I will create a new one by clicking and dragging a variable that I created before, which will create a new variable and name it itself. Now you don't want to keep that name, although it is unique. If you do this in multiple function blocks, then you'll have the same variable in multiple function blocks, and that could cause issues when you compile these function blocks in the output configuration. It's just a tip there. Now, one thing I've done here is I've created a network, and that network just allows you to configure or auto-align the functionality within those networks. You do it by clicking the icon in the top left-hand corner, 5 in from the left on the second row, and to auto-layout, you just right-click in the network and select the option which says layout the whole network. So now we've been through how that works, I'm going to quickly cut to where I'm creating actual functionality and show you how that's done. So before we get to the final functionality, I wanted to show you something at this stage. So you can see I've changed the variables at the top slightly, and also I've changed the logic in the middle. So the logic in the middle, I needed to create an integer instead of a real, because This block, the CTD, which is a timer, countdown timer, needed an integer as an input. So I didn't need any of that logic. I decided to scrap all of that and just go with the CTD. So if you're wondering about all these function blocks, I'm going to do some videos on what exists as standard function blocks and what happens when you create your own as well. And just to speed things up, I'm going to cut to a version that's completed that represents the description that I put in the function block earlier. So here you can see the completed function block. You've got the conversions at the top, then you've got the timer logic, so a trigger triggers the timer to start counting down, and then I take the output of that timer, so the actual number that's coming out of it, and convert that to a variable, an output variable, which I will then display on a page or a user interface so they can see the actual timer. Then I do the same thing for the second timer and have that as an output as well. So one thing to mention here is the SR flip-flop that latches the input trigger so that the timer continues to count down like it should. So the last thing I want to show you before I end this video is how to test a function block. So to test a function block, you want to click on the FX button at the top and have this window open here at the bottom. Now you can just drag it and pin it to the right hand side. This is what I usually do, just so it's easier to see the variables in there. And then I'm just going to remove the menus from my function block so I don't need them, and just drag this across so I can see the input and output variables better for when I'm testing. So once all that's sorted, you press play at the top and you'll see all the lines go red, and that indicates that it's started. And then you want to trigger the input so that the timer starts counting down. You'll see the counter go down on the right, and then it will go true and false on the reset to show that that time has ended. And then if I do it on the second one, you'll see the second timer start going down and down and down and down, and I can display that on the output, but you also have the trigger at the end that goes true or false for that one as well. And then you can stop it, and that's tested. So that's it for this episode, guys. Please like and subscribe. If there's anything that I've missed or you didn't understand, please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. I read all the comments. So I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.